Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic and wonderful and great. It's good here, except that it's been raining for like 3 straight days, and all of my kids' softball games have been canceled, and they're going to try to pack like 10 games into the last 2 weeks of school, and it's a little bit mind-bogglingly nerve-wracking. And that being that kind of ties into something that I want to talk about from yesterday. If you didn't see yesterday's video, I talked about not having a safety net and how that impacts me on a regular basis. I basically have no money in the bank, and my dog got hurt last week, and I personally am unable to afford to take care of that situation. There is no money in my emergency funding because of some poor decisions that I can't put all the blame that I made and my partner made, financial decisions that we made in the past that put us in a lot of financial stress. And for the last 3 years since she left and we got divorced, and I've been trying to iron all of that stuff out. I've been trying to fix it. But going through all of that has been extremely painful. So regardless, somebody posted yesterday, I don't remember who it was. It was a name I didn't recognize. Kind of a, I don't know the intention of the post, but it was a snarky sort of, such a first world problem. I only have a nice house, an amazing girlfriend, and $100,000 in my 401k. And yes, that is a first world problem, but that also doesn't discount the fact that it's a problem. And those kinds of snarky bullshit remarks aren't needed in this world. I recognize that there are people in the world who have it much harder than me, but that does not help my situation, right? My situation is that I put myself in a position to not have income, not have leftover money. I have a nice house because I owe somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars for that nice house. I have 401k, $100,000 in my 401k, when I should have way more than that. The fact of the matter is I should probably have closer to 200,000 or maybe even $250,000 in my 401k at this point, and I don't, because I've had to withdraw. I've had to take money out in the past. I had jobs where I wasn't able to afford to put money in the past, and the standard "this is such a first world problem" response is kind of bullshit, because I do live in the first world, which means that if I want to exist in the society, I have to have this society's standard level of comfort in living. That means, sure, I could sell this house and I could move into a tiny apartment where my children don't have bedrooms when they come to visit me. I could live way below my means. Absolutely could. It's a choice that I have not made because I have children, because I want them to have their own space when they come to visit me, because I want them to be comfortable when they're here, as opposed to, again, liquidating all of my assets and moving into a studio apartment so that I can start to rebuild. I've chosen to take that path. At my current income level and the amount of child support that I have to pay and the bills that I have to pay, I'm breaking even, essentially. Not really. As I mentioned yesterday, I do have a tiny bit left over that I can squirrel away, but it's not very much. And whenever somebody comes along to the type of video that I posted with those sorts of comments, it discredits the fact that it's still a problem, right? That it's still a serious issue. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I don't take responsibility for it. I absolutely take responsibility for it. It is my fault that I'm in this financial situation entirely. But I'm still in this situation. And yes, I could choose to just not pay my bills and put money aside and lose my house and get kicked out and depend on my girlfriend for everything. But that's not the kind of person that I am. And so it is my problem. The first world problem, yeah. When somebody says that they, had a bad morning because the Starbucks was closed, that's a first world problem. That's a something to be made fun of problem. But the situation that I'm in, I don't think deserves that. I think that it deserves critical thinking, absolutely. It deserves some in a reflection, like I have just done to you, and fully admitted that the situation that I'm in is my own fault. But that doesn't necessarily make it any less of an issue. Just, I don't know, be kind to people. Obviously, there are people in third world countries, and there's even people in my first world country. There's people in my development that aren't as well off as I am, that are struggling worse than I am. Just because I confess to you and confess to myself, which is essentially what I'm doing here. This is for me, not necessarily for you to watch. Just because I confess my problems and I confess the struggles that I'm personally facing does not discredit all of the struggles of the world. All of those people's struggles are very, very real. And if I could do more to help, I would. Absolutely. I'm just not in a position to do that right now until I figure out a way to get myself into a secure financial situation. And that's what I really intended to, that's what the topic yesterday was supposed to be more about, was figuring out a way to do better with my limited resources. And in my immediate framework, in my immediate field of vision, doing better means doing better for my children. My children right now don't have much because of the situation. My children have no college, nothing. I have nothing set aside for them. $0. My children have, my kid doesn't have a car. They don't have a lot of things. They go without a lot that kind of the normal kids might have. And so in my own personal worldview, they're first. And then I'll take care of other people when I can. And maybe someday I'll be able to take care of myself. But thankfully I have Em, and I don't know what I would do without her. So thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is felicity. It is a noun meaning a state of blissful happiness. Never lose sight of the fact that all human felicity lies in a man's imagination and that he cannot think to attain it unless he heeds all caprices. Marquis de Sade, a French aristocrat and revolutionary. Felicity. Felicity. I think that all human felicity does not lie in a man's imagination and that he has to do shit about it. I fully believe that both men and women have imaginations that are extremely impactful on this world.